what we actually absolutely need to ground ourselves in is how we're even looking at the Arabic parts from a vibrational astrology perspective. So one way to step into that is to define what vibrational astrology is. Let's get a taste. Let's get a sense of it. Okay, it's a very modern school of thought and approach to chart analysis that was founded by David Cochrane in the 1970s. And basically, long story short, vibrational astrology is an evidence-based system of astrological research. This is a formal definition, right? So basically, long story short, how we get all of our definitions for every single point, planet, vibration that we're reading is through research. Extreme case sampling particularly, and at this point in time, I hope this changes during my tenure at ISAR and just as an astrologer in general. This point in time, the AA data, the pool of AA data that we're researching from is about 20,000 charts. So that's kind of what we're one part of vibrational astrology. Another part of vibrational astrology, though, is the vibration part. What are we doing? We're reading harmonics, right? And so harmonics, you know, are new, not new. Vedic astrologers have been using harmonics for thousands of years, you know, with the Septamsa and Navamsa charts, the same calculations as the seventh harmonic or seventh vibration and the ninth vibration in vibrational astrology. And so basically that's it. Evidence-based, we read harmonics, boom. That's one kind of core situation for vibrational astrology. The informal definition, and this is very critical for what we're discussing today, is vibrational astrology is an interpretable network of vibrations and resonances, and is very closely aligned in theory and application with quantum mechanics and music, frankly. And so quantum mechanics and physics and music just in general, music theory. So things like subatomic particles, wavelengths, fractals, these all have a home in vibrational astrology. And the purview that we are approaching the chart through. We are approaching the chart through the fact that points in the natal chart vibrate and resonate. And so another way to put that is that in vibrational astrology, the natal chart is an instrument. It is attuned in a certain way. The planetary positions, the angular distances tell us what the attunement of the natal chart instrument is, how it sounds, how loud it is in certain ways, how faint it is in certain ways. We've developed systems to read it like this. So instead of the natal chart being, and we already know, we're all astrologers, right? So we already know that the natal chart is, you know, a two-dimensional representation of, you know, 3D, 5D, 4D, whatever. Like we're reading all these collapses of these great planes, ecliptic plane, whatever, right? But vibrational astrology takes it a little bit further, in that these things that we're reading as kind of angular distances, we're feeling them. So these are shooting out. We're like, oh, we're getting struck. So we're actually using our bodies as an instrument as well, and we're hearing things, seeing things, we're sensing things. So the natal chart is alive like this. This is very critical for what we're studying today, or not studying, but what we're seeing or experiencing or whatever, is that chart is alive like this. We feel it just like we feel, you know, the distinction between bumping bass at a hip hop concert versus, you know, attending some type of Chopin symphony concert at the Walt Disney Hall here in Los Angeles. The music sounds different. It feels different. Same approach to chart analysis here. So let's get right to the core of what we're talking about today. Why parts are in vibrational astrology, particularly the concept of resonance, because all Arabic parts are resonance points. So let's get into that. Like, what is resonance? Okay, whatever. So, I mean, in physics is the tendency of the system to vibrate with increasing amplitudes at some frequencies of excitation. So basically, resonance on the physics level is like very similar to a tuning fork, right? If we go, we're dowsing, we're, you know, whatever, we're walking around in the field looking for water with dowsing sticks or whatever, it's going to point in a certain way. If we're walking around dowsing with tuning forks for water, when we're above the water source, it's going to vibrate. So basically, long story short, there are these kind of natural resonance points that start to vibrate when they're triggered by similar resonances or points of excitation. So that's one way to look at resonance in vibrational astrology. The second and most critical way for what we're discussing today, and excuse me, it appears like my, here we go. So sorry about that delay. Is resonance in vibrational astrology is particularly, and very simply, because let's concretize this in pragmatism and things that aren't like this all theoretical and whatever. Resonance in vibrational astrology speaks to the strength of a frequency. So going back to the concept of a natal chart as an instrument, how loud is the frequency of what we're reading? Well, we determine that through a few things. We determine that through the number of planets at this point making specific angular distances to each other that are partile, that are exact, right? So we do it with the number of planets. The more the merrier. If there are 5 planets, probably going to be stronger than a 2-planet resonance, a 2-planet circuit, a 2-planet thing. And frankly, we don't even read 2 planets. In vibrational astrology, we read things that are 3 planets or more, right? So if you have 4 planets, 8 planets, whatever, on forming a connecting to each other in an angular distance, that's going to be a strong pattern. That's going to be loud. It's going to be resonant. It's going to be vibrating and buzzing like crazy loud. Second thing that we use is as I've mentioned, is orb. You know, so it's one thing to have like a whole bunch of planets, but if they're out of orb, like we can't read them. So anything that's like exact, 0 degrees, etc., that's harmonizing. That's the loudest that it can possibly be. So if there are any questions, please pop them in the chat on this. But that's what I'd like us to get is that resonance is strength. It's a numbers game. It's very, very basic, actually. So, okay. So this leads us to this thing, which is an isosceles trapezoid. It's like, okay, well, who cares? Like, frankly, like, what is this thing? Like some weird trapezoid shape. Okay, so there are all kinds of trapezoids, you know, rectangles, et cetera, et cetera. What's the distinction between an isosceles trapezoid? What does this have to do with anything that we're talking about in terms of resonance, et cetera, et cetera? Well, in vibrational astrology, we actually read this. This is an aspect, if you will, most likely an invisible aspect that is readable because of its resonance. Because if we imagine a planet at each of these points at 0 degrees orb, these angular distances are striking each other such that they sing, such that they're loud, such that they're readable and interpretable. So this is where Arabic charts, particularly the part of fortune and the part of spirit and part of redemption, because those are the Sun-Moon-Ascendant Arabic parts that we're discussing today, become quantum. Because just by the nature of them, they become isosceles trapezoids, right? So let's talk about this. We know that the part of fortune is a Sun-Moon-Ascendant calculation, right? So if we're looking at the placement of the part of fortune in this example chart, we can see that this side and this side, the Sun Ascendant and the Moon part of these are equidistant. They're equidistant and the diagonals are equidistant. So basically, why the chart of fortune is just so prominent and so spectacular and so important as a point is because it makes this shape that vibrates and harmonizes with all of these different points. So basically, it's just like this giant radiating dowsing stick, tuning fork that is loud and operatic in the chart.